All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Rokisky, the one you've been tweeting with. So we'll give people just a couple more minutes to hop on to Periscope. And if you have any questions, you can feel free to throw them in Periscope or use the hashtag MeetSmommy on Twitter. So we'll wait a couple more minutes and then we'll dive in. All right. Welcome, everyone. If you weren't here a couple seconds ago, I'm Rokisky, this month's featured guest for Smommy Twitter's Spotlight. All of the advice and pointers that you have been providing so far have been wonderful. It's been eye-opening, and I love hearing what other people see in the future of social media. So we're going to dive in. This is an opportunity for you to ask me any questions. Feel free to share them on Twitter using the hashtag MeetSmommy or throw them in Periscope. And I will be interacting and answering questions between 12:30 and 1. So we have a current first question, and it's how do communities expect brands to be in terms of human interactions? When does engaging with a joke intended for your best friend get awkward? And it's really interesting because I believe it was American Express released a study on ethics and social media, and what they found was people actually have a higher tolerance for quote unquote unethical behavior. However, speaking as brands, you have to be careful. And it goes back to what we were talking about in the chat on Twitter about automated tweets, and then a tragic event happens or something else hops into the spotlight, and it's an opportunity for that automated tweet, Facebook post, or Instagram photo to get muddled and seem inauthentic. So you want to be careful when it comes to being human as a brand, and I think that a good extension of that is um, kind of using a filter on what you would say speaking to a group of people in person at a conference. Humor is great, and it's always a way to kind of relate to those you're speaking with. So my biggest thing is you want to be authentic, you want to show your personality, but you want to be careful about those taboo topics. So really doing your research, having an understanding of current events, so putting on the researcher hat and going into Google Trends and having the ability to stop a post quickly on your phone through Hootsuite or whatever buffer automation systems you have. So that would probably be my answer to being authentic as a brand on social media. Brands that are doing it well, I think one of my favorite right now is Netflix. They have tapped into an audience that they understand who their market is and how to go about reaching them. Any other questions on human nature in brands before we move on to the next question? All right. So the next question is, what's your point of view on Peach? So if you don't know what Peach is / was, depending on your point of view, it was this app that kind of peaked, and it was the huge thing, and now it's considered dead in the tech world, which is the nature of some apps. Um, and I think what it did well, it taught us how modern technology, um, it's the most conductive machine for communicating and sharing our thoughts and kind of grouping them together. But it's also demonstrative of the fact that it might be a fad and then drop off. I think it was outside the norm of an app, and so a bunch of people got the hype with it, and then it kind of trailed off. I would be interested to hear. I only used it briefly, but if any of you all have any experience with Peach, I would love to hear it, because it doesn't necessarily mean it's gone or dead, but I think that right now it's kind of in the lull period, so unless they kind of reinvent and streamline how they collect and aggregate the content within the app, that might be a potential pitfall. So funding and all of that. Hello, Kamara Lewis. How are you? Thanks for joining us. So we have another question regarding Peach. Is it just another Jumo or Elo? Again, I think it's still early enough that if they see what they did wrong and they make the updates quickly enough with their audience there, Sola says it's a shiny toy. And I think it is, so unless they have that purpose factor that they kind of adjust it quickly while they still have somewhat of a viral following, it'll trail off. You have to have the purpose that, why would you have an audience there? What's the unique factor? And why should you overall invest your time in it? Because that's the big question. It's more time, whereas Periscope and Meerkat and Blab, they all introduced this live streaming, real, in the moment, live, as it's happening experience. And Peach, it's an aggregator. So it'll be interesting to watch. So kind of keep us in the loop, and I will kind of post on my Twitter the progress of Peach. So you all can follow up on the Smami website as well. Dell said, with its news updates, what are best practices for using Facebook Messenger as a customer service tool? Well, I think one of the biggest things with transferring money and calls within the Messenger app on Facebook, it's a huge way to not feel invasive for potential customers and customer service, and also taking customer complaints off publicly and then putting them in this bubble that's private, but also gives them the one-on-one feel that they're being heard as a customer. So I think that the potential there for certain brands, I don't have any personal experience seeing brands using the Messenger update apps for that, but we've used it as a tool for crowdfunding with clients and quick exchanges for some of the associations that I sit on outside of Smami. And I think it's quick. You don't need a data plan. You can do it right off the app. So I think it's a great way for customer service to kind of evolve within Facebook too. And you have to be careful because it is a place so connected to Facebook that you could have people get lost in the shuffle. So you want to make sure it's not your center customer service tool, but an addition to your customer service strategy within social media. Kamara Lewis, what's your advice for creating a social strategy from scratch? That's a great question. So first of all, it involves, again, a lot of research. just before you dive into anything, you want to look at who you're trying to reach for what reason, and work backwards. Find your audience and figure out where they're at, and then set some goals as a brand, and then see what social strategy makes sense in terms of channels. So if you are a healthcare organization and you're trying to be thought of as a thought leader in your industry, Twitter would be great because you would interact with publications, journalists, and have them help you propel you forward using some graphics for pull quotes from your research, your top findings, tagging them, tagging the organizations, and then helping yourself be seen that way. So you use Twitter for that. And then going off the same analogy with healthcare, if you wanted to kind of show the behind the scenes of your health organization, I think you would use an Instagram or even a Snapchat. We have goals and values from Dell equals social media excellence. You have to plan ahead. Absolutely. It's all about planning. And like I said, and I believe a couple others said in the Twitter chat, it's about planning ahead so you can be spontaneous. You have the day-to-day stuff, the evergreen content, the plan of your editorial calendar, all of that pushing out normally, and then it allows you to have a strategy for interacting with your audience, for interacting with potential customers, for interacting with those that could help propel you into a thought leader, so members or patients to tell their story. And like I said, going back, so if you wanted the behind the scenes, you would kind of use an Instagram or Snapchat. Snapchat would be more of the visceral, live, real-time eyes into your association, and having a social media strategy that encompasses a policy for social media as well. With going off again the healthcare organization analogy, HIPAA is huge. We represent here at Martin Waymeyer many healthcare organizations, and it's always towing the line of what can we put out and what's invasive, and towing that line. So doing all the research so you know what you can and cannot put on social media, as well as finding out what that hole is. So the biggest thing I think in a social strategy as well is figuring out where you can come in at that awkward angle, and awkward being that no one else is doing it in terms of competition, and owning that space. Are you in a healthcare organization and has no one really done a podcast? Own it. Do a podcast, interview guests and employees that you work with as vendors, showcase stories that really invoke that raw emotion, do a vlog if no one's doing a vlog, and push that out across your social channel. And the Facebook Live video would be a great opportunity for you as a brand to envelop in your social strategy if no one else is doing it. So really looking at what your competitors are doing as well, because I think that's a huge opportunity, and that's where you're going to create content that's meaningful, and that's another huge gap between how your competitors are serving the potentially a same audience and how you could be filling that gap. So how you fill that gap and come in at that 45-degree angle. All right, from Sola, what are some innovative tactics you're seeing occur while integrating PR and social? I love how some brands are taking visual content and piecing it from different angles based on your audience and the social channel to tell your story. So maybe your hub is a blog and you want to tell a story for that week or month as part of your editorial calendar, and chunking that story into visual content or text on Twitter, and piecing it to tell a different aspect of your story. So For example, if you have a blog on snowmobiles and you want to tell that example of snowmobiles, so you have a blog that highlights your services on your website, but then it kind of dives into this real storytelling aspect of snowmobiles and sharing photos of families out snowmobiling over crisp, clean snow, and then taking that photo, putting it on Instagram, taking the blogs and using a featured image and pushing it on Facebook, driving back to the blog posts, pushing it out on Twitter with maybe it doesn't even link to anything, one time with a nice photo, and you ask, how do you enjoy your winter months? And then you push that out on Twitter. You find like-minded brands for snowmobiles, kind of tap them on Twitter, show them that you're an expert in Twitter on snowmobiles, and then use maybe Snapchat, you show you on a snowmobile. So kind of coming in and telling your story and chunking with social media, that every platform entices your audience to join. So why should your audience join Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and Snapchat for your brand? And if they're not, then looking at content to deliver that drives them to all outlets on your social. All right. I'm just checking the Twitter right now. Do we have any other questions while we're coming in? Anyone on Periscope have any comments or questions for me on social? Being a human representation of your brand before pitching. Yeah, exactly. You want to... One of the great TED Talks that I love, and people in general, is Simon Sinek. And he gives this wonderful talk on starting with why and answering the problem first in your story of, imagine a world with, insert your product, brand, or service here, and then work back to imagine a world with this and why it would be awesome and how we can get there. And then the how we get there is your product or service or your brand. Displaying your passion, clearly being your story instead of telling it. Absolutely. In that talk, it's great because that's what great social media does. It doesn't talk to your audience and sell to your audience. It talks with your audience and for your audience, what they can do for you. And I think whatever your social strategy is, that's what you have to keep in mind. That at the end of the day, you're here for whoever your target audience is, and why are you valuable, and why do you set apart from others who are like-minded competitors, or not even competitors. What makes you symbiotic with other brands similar to you, and why should your audience be following? Again, going back to Netflix, I think they do a phenomenal job of showing why you need Netflix. Like, oh, you need these socks that aren't even real, but wouldn't it be awesome if when you fell asleep it paused your Netflix, it paused your show, so you didn't skip 3 episodes into House of Cards that you didn't even watch. And if you just look at those types of brands, and Oreo's another one. Oreo does this, the famous one everyone knows is Dipping in the Dark. When the Super Bowl, during the half show, the halftime show went out, we can still dunk in the dark. And I think that's just, yeah, you can. Like, what are you going to do when the halftime show for the Super Bowl goes out? You're going to go get a snack or food or something, and that's why you want Oreo. And next time you're at the store, you're going to think of Oreo, hopefully. And then in weaving in between there, calls to action for service. Subscribe to the blog, subscribe to our podcast. Here's our service. Get this free webinar, get us your email, and then use email as kind of the thanks for following us and using us. Here's these services that we offer. Check them out. Let's see. From Dell. What do I feel is the most important thing to know in social media as we head into 2016? That's a good one. For me, it's kind of keeping an eye on any sort of video, be it live streaming, so Periscope, Blab, Meerkat, and I think it was Solo that said it, because it's a whole new glimpse into a brand and those within the brand, providing a raw, visceral, in the moment, unedited look. And I think that's going to be huge. Another thing I'm personally interested in, and I think that we should keep an eye on, is long form content and its return. I think that especially with Facebook opening up its publishing platform within the application, as well as Twitter aka it's opening the doors to a beyond 140 character option, similar to a Facebook, is what I believe it's going to look like. And someone else said that too. I think it was Jeff. And I think it's about figuring out how you get people to look at long form content again, if other brands are going to do it well, and how do you get them to look at it in such a quick atmosphere of social media. So integrating long form back into social media. I think it'll be interesting to see how the top brands kind of weave that in, as well as use the live streaming. I think the biggest thing I would say is integrating them in a way that works for brands, between live streaming, long form, and just social in general. And I think that's what 2016 is going to be about, moving from the idea that you need a website now to everything can live within social media. And I think I want to keep an eye on that because that scares me to a certain extent, just because it's so nuclear in social media. Sometimes you never know what's going to happen. I don't think Facebook is going anywhere. I don't think Twitter is going anywhere anytime soon. LinkedIn publishing, how blogging strategy, Mark Schaefer just posted a blog post a couple weeks ago about, is blogging dead? Because you can do it all within social media now. And so what does blogging even look like anymore? And as a new blogger myself, and one who manages other blogging content calendars and editorial calendars, I think that's, for me at least, one of the biggest areas that I'll be watching to kind of see what's happening. All right, we have about 6 more minutes, so are there any other questions on Twitter Scope? Oh, we have another one. All right, Sola says she'd love to close with my blog. Awesome. So for those of you that don't know, I started a blog in January, a new year, and as one who is not well with New Year's resolutions, I decided to commit to a blog to hold myself accountable all year long and make it public. And being one in social media, once you make it on Facebook, it's official. So I told people I was launching it, and I think on there, if you want to visit, it's thecolorfulperspective.com. There's about 4 blog posts, and the first one's all about starting and how I decided to start and why starting is sometimes the hardest thing when it comes to anything. So it's a lifestyle blog that I'm going to kind of parse into different categories of things I decided to start. So I think 2016 for me is a year of starting and managing time for myself and to better my skills. So I purchased a DSLR camera because I was really into my Instagram and focusing on that. So now I can take it to the next level. And so I'm going to integrate that into my blog and talk to people about how I take photos and then push that onto Instagram. So that's how people can relate to my blog on Instagram. And then Facebook is just kind of this haven for anyone who is interested in blogging or my blog content. And then I'm going to push out, I do Motivation Mondays, and I posted about David Bowie and Alan Rickman, and just relating to people on all spectrums of humanity on Facebook. And then Twitter is kind of where I reach out to brands. So this week's post, I did a photo shoot at Foster Coffee in Owasso, Michigan, and talked about how I love it because I'm a huge fan of coffee shops, if you don't know, as most people are probably in communications field. If we could have IVs of coffee, that would probably, I think most people would sign up. So kind of using all of those even in my own blogging on social media to kind of diversify and drive people back to my website. And it'll be interesting to see how people either do or don't make it from social media to my blog, even though I'm getting engagement on all of my channels. I get pretty decent engagement on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So as that kind of goes on, it'll be interesting to see. So as we kind of close up here, like I said, if you wanted to check out the blog, and if you have any critiques, feel free to throw them at me. It's thecolorfulperspective.com, and then on Twitter it's @thecolorfulblog, and facebook.com/thecolorfulperspective. So I put the website together myself. I threw up the graphics and kind of do those on my own, and in all my free time I developed that content. So we can take these last few minutes for any last questions, but this has been awesome, and all of these questions are wonderful. Make sure you stay in touch with SMAMI. I'm on the board as the secretary this year, and we will be following up on all of these trends as 2016 progresses. So make sure to visit smami.org if you aren't already there. Follow us on Twitter, like the Facebook page, because we really want to create this pool of experts in the digital community, as well as people who want to learn more. And I think it'll be a great way for even like myself. I have plenty to learn in the digital sphere, and I think that we all have to be continuous learners in the digital realm because it's continuously changing. So are there any other final questions? I'm going to check the hashtag #MeetSmami. Hopefully all of you are there and posting. That's where all these questions are coming from. Let's see. All right, none on the hashtag that I don't think I missed. Awesome. Any on Periscope from my current watchers? Perfect. Well, I guess I will end with kind of what I do at Martin Waymeyer. So we're Martin Waymeyer. We've been around for 11 years. We're a full-service strategic communications and integrated marketing firm in Lansing, and we focus on anything from traditional media to digital media to all of the hats in between that you could possibly imagine. And we do have a focus on public policy, but just because our superpower here at Martin Waymeyer isn't set on that niche. So we work with the Michigan Retailers Association for their Buy Nearby campaign, and it's one of the funnest campaigns for me that I can relate with because it's all digital. And so I think here at Martin Waymeyer, my superpower would probably be paid advertising. That's what I've worked closest with, and that's kind of what I do and hop on board with should anyone need it for clients or for Martin Waymeyer. So that's Facebook ads, Google ads, LinkedIn ads, Twitter ads, Instagram ads, now that Instagram has ads opened up to everyone. So I kind of have grown and moved into the paid advertising sphere here at Martin Waymeyer. And I love it. It's where I learned all of my digital chops and got involved elsewhere. So it's helped me become the digital person that I am, even in my young age here yet. So other than that, I think we just hit 1 o'clock, so this was great. Stay in touch with us for next month's feature spotlight. If you don't know what that is or the date, I'm going to direct you to our SMAMI Facebook page. I think that's where you'll be able to find all of the... Thank you, everyone. Thank you. That's where you'll find all our dates, upcoming programming. Stay in touch with us. Follow our blog. Sign up for email newsletters. If you're not a member, you should be a SMAMI member. Go to smami.org, and we'll catch you next month. Thanks, everyone. Bye.